Yeah, so it can definitely help with weight management. I think it's also important that it's going to help with performance.
Okay.
So a couple of things that I want to touch on there is that typically what I find is that if people don't eat before or during, animal instinct will eventually kick in, and later in the day they're going to go crazy and eat loads of food.
That's what I used to do.
Yep, and it's really common because if you've gone out for a 4-hour ride and you haven't eaten much and you haven't eaten anything beforehand, later in the day, you might not feel too hungry throughout, you might not feel hungry afterwards, but it's going to be sort of that 4 hours later, mid-afternoon.
Why is it 4 hours later?
Well, typically we can wake up, we can get through our normally daily activities, and then our hunger eventually kicks in. And you go, actually, I've just done a heap of training, even if it's low intensity, and now I'm doing work or I'm running around and I'm actually really hungry now.
Yes.
The other thing that can happen is that, if it's after an intense ride as well, our body temperature or core body temperature increases. So that can actually switch off or dull our hunger hormones.
Interesting.
So what happens is people finish a ride and go, oh, I couldn't think of anything worse than eating right now. And I'm also trying to lose weight. Great. I'm going to delay this next meal for a couple of hours.
Yep.
They'll have a feed and absolutely starving. So what happens is they'll end up eating more than what they normally would have. They'll also get the snacks, cravings throughout the afternoon. So they'll snack on a heap of different stuff in the afternoons. They have dinner. They may even want something after dinner, which they may typically not have throughout the week, for example. Something else that happens is that if they're getting really, really hungry, our body doesn't naturally go and crave good quality food. We often start craving really high sugar, high salt, high fat foods because that's what gives us that quick energy that we're looking for. So, typically if you normally will crave fruit and yogurt when you're looking for a snack, sometimes then you'll end up craving, lollies or chocolate or chips and things like that because you're just so hungry. It's like, whatever I can see, I just need to eat right now. So what I encourage people to do is, particularly for high intensity rides in the morning, try and have a pre-training snack and try and eat on a regular basis. Every hour, try and get a set amount of carbohydrates in throughout that ride. What that's going to help do is not only will it help performance, but you're going to finish that ride. You still might be hungry, but you're not going to be ravenous. You can have a proper recovery breakfast, and then you can control your portions throughout the rest of the day, and you're not looking for or going to overeat on those portions. I try to say to people, the best way to think about it is fueling for the work required is what I sort of teach my clients is if you've got a session in the morning, we really want to front end your food and recover, fuel, recover, and then back off your food as the day goes on. Not only will that help you fuel, recover, train better, but it's also going to help aid in weight loss as well.
Yes.
We have to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. And a lot of people say, if I can get through the first half of the day without eating, surely I'll be in a calorie deficit the rest of the day. Sometimes yes, but typically what I see is that people just overconsume for the rest of the day. They're also fatigued because they've trained, so they end up eating all their calories towards the back end of the day and eating more than what they originally would have planned and more than having just your carbohydrates and pre and post training snacks.
Yes, and when you're fatigued, you tend to just go for whatever you can find.
Absolutely.
What about for people that don't like to eat in the morning though? Is it about training them to do that?
Absolutely. Really common if you're waking up at 4 a.m, 5 a.m. to train, it's not natural to wake up and go, great, I'm going to eat. So depending how hard that session is, if it's an easy session, great, go ahead, don't worry about having a snack beforehand. But if it's a quality session and you're looking for performance out of that session and you're going to hit some times, hit some pace, whatever it might be that you're looking for in that session, we know you're going to train better if you have carbohydrates before it. And some people will say, no, I just feel sick. It's not going to happen. It's actually going to make me train worse. What they've got to understand is that your gut is like every other muscle in the body and we can train it to tolerate food. So you could start off with something really easy, quite small. It might be half a piece of fruit. You could even start with something like a fruit juice. It's not something I typically go to first, again, because it's not going to be great for your dental hygiene long-term, being really high sugar. But things like fruit, good quality breads, it could be Muesli bar, it could be, a sports nutrition product. There's so many different options there and everyone's going to have, individual choices of what they like and what suits them. But it's trying to start with something small, maybe some dried fruit, some date balls, and then working their way up into something that's more of a quality or decent sized pre-training snack.
Yes, and they should also try eating during the session as well.
Definitely.
Okay.
So if it's a long session, if it was an hour session, probably not that important. If you're sort of looking at 90 minutes or beyond that, particularly for those high intensity training sessions, you're trying to have a set plan, and I think it's important, particularly if you're racing, to practice your race plan in training as well. And a lot of people wait until they're hungry. I usually encourage people to start, get settled into the bike, but start at about maybe the 30-minute mark, and every sort of 30 minutes or every hour you're having something, and have the timer that's going off on your watch to remind you, so that when you get to race day, you well and truly have a plan that's going to sit well in your stomach. You know it works for you, and you don't have to think about anything else. You're not trying to remember, okay, every 7 minutes I need to do this. It's just natural. Every 20 minutes, every 30 minutes, every 45, whatever it might be for you, that you're having something on a regular basis.
Yes, that's good. Well, it certainly worked for me. Since I started to do it, I am no longer hungry in the afternoons or ravenous in the afternoons. So thanks for the tip.
No problems.
Yeah.